Hey friends, criminal defense attorney Ryan Pacyga, and today I'm going to talk to you about what to expect in terms of your first felony in Minnesota. So let's talk about what to expect. I've made a different video just kind of telling you what are some felonies and some examples of that and what can happen if you end up with a felony on your record. But now let's talk about, well, what do you expect if you're charged with a felony in Minnesota? Some cases, when they're charged with a felony, deal with a court appearance right away because someone's been arrested. So you might be arrested, and if it's a felony, a lot of times police aren't going to let you go that night. They're going to have you sit in jail for 1 to 2 to even 3 days sometimes before you're in front of a judge, and you have what's called a bail hearing. At that bail hearing, a judge is going to have to decide whether to set bail on your case or not. If so, what amount? And if not, maybe some conditions of release or what's called conditional bail in order for you to be able to get out. These are rules that a judge would set so that your bail is lower than having to put up as much money as long as you follow those rules, or sometimes just conditions with no bail amount, which means follow all these rules and you won't have to put up any money and you can at least get out. Other times people can't afford their bail in a case and then they're held in jail while their case is going on. So that's pretty common in a felony case, but once in a while, the prosecutors just mail out a criminal complaint. And so if you're not arrested by the police and sitting in jail and then having a bail hearing in front of a judge, the other way that you can get charged with a felony is that you get mailed a criminal complaint. And sometimes these are for crimes that allegedly happened 3 months ago, 6 months ago, even over a year ago, and all of a sudden you'll get a letter from the court with a summons telling you that you've been charged in a felony case and that you have to appear on a certain date or time. In addition to that, if it goes that way, they're going to order that you be booked. So you're going to be fingerprinted and photographed by the police at some time you'll set up an appointment for. Again, this is presuming you're out of jail and not in jail. And then you're going to have a hearing that's going to tell you what your rights are in court. That's usually called a Rule 8 appearance. So we have a Rule 5 and Rule 8. Those are kind of preliminary. They tell you what your rights are. We talk about bail, your right to a lawyer, your right to be presumed innocent, and your right to have the evidence and have a lawyer and even have a trial in your case and other things, okay? Eventually, you'll get to what's called an omnibus hearing. An omnibus hearing kind of has two purposes. One, to determine whether any of your constitutional rights were violated, such as the police illegally arresting you or illegally interviewing you or an illegal search warrant or an illegal search without a warrant. Those are some common examples of what are called omnibus issues in your case. And at the omnibus hearing, which is your second or third hearing in a felony case, the judge will ask you how you plea. And they'll also determine if there's probable cause on the complaint, meaning probable cause for the charges to continue against you, which usually they find that there are probable cause, or there is probable cause, and the case can continue against you. Now, for the plea, it's common to enter a not guilty plea when you're asked to plead at an omnibus. You of course, have a right to plead guilty, but just because you plead not guilty in an omnibus doesn't mean you can't work out a plea agreement later or plead guilty later. It's just usually it's a little rush to plead guilty at an omnibus hearing for a variety of reasons. So for these reasons, you may have anywhere from 2 to 6 hearings in a felony case, and you might even have a trial. If you have a trial, you get 12 jurors because it's a felony. All 12 you have to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt for you to be found guilty. Even 11 to 1 doesn't count against you. And how long a felony case might last from the time that you have your first court appearance until the time it's all done, whether that's a trial or a dismissal or a guilty plea with a sentencing, that can go anywhere from 3 months on the really quick end, but typically anywhere from 6 months to 12 months or even more. So felony cases last a little longer. They're more serious. Sometimes there's more evidence to go through. There's a lot going on in a felony case, and because of how severe it is, everyone wants to make sure that the job is done right the first time. So that's kind of a wrap up on what to expect in a felony case. The other video I made talking about what a felony is and everything talks about collateral consequences. And you should take a look at that because those are things that the prosecutors and judges do not have to warn you about that can happen to you if you plead guilty or are found guilty of a felony, besides things like maybe having jail time or just having a felony on your record. These collateral consequences oftentimes that people don't understand them can be rather troublesome for people. So you want to make sure you understand the common collateral consequences in a felony case, because that can really impact your decision about whether you choose to plead guilty to a felony or not. And of course, we do have two ways to plead guilty to a felony. One of the ways, if you have to plead guilty to a felony, can turn into a misdemeanor later. That's called a stay of imposition, which is something you should be aware of as well, because that can be really helpful in that it wouldn't become a permanent felony on your record. It would only be a felony while you're on probation, and then it can get lowered. Of course, some felony charges are bogus and they should be thrown out, and other felony charges just are not true, but a jury has to determine whether or not you're guilty. You might have a defense to some of these charges or not. There's too many to cover in one video, but this is just a very basic video of what to expect if you're charged with a felony for the first time. If you have any questions, you can call me. I'm Ryan Pacyga. You can reach me at 612-339-5844 or find me at arrestedmn.com. Thanks.